Burned my life to the ground, like lost all my money, pled guilty to a felony, ended up millions and millions of dollars in debt, reputation destroyed. Tabloids are telling this really reductive tale, as they do. And I'm living with my mom, and I'm like, I need a comeback. Like, what do I do? It's going to be really hard for me to get a job, with this felony conviction. I need to take control of the narrative. I need to write my story.
Welcome back to Innovate or Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm your host, Toph Day. We have Molly Bloom in the house, the entrepreneur, author, and speaker, best known for her memoir, Molly's Game, and one of my favorite movies of all time. Molly's story is one of the incredible highs and challenging lows, from being a world-class skier to running the most exclusive, high-stakes poker game in the world, and ultimately rebuilding her life from scratch. Holy cow. That sounds amazing, Molly. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Rally.
Thanks, Toph. I'm so happy to be here.
This is going to be awesome. So you are you're going to bring it home today, by the way, here at Rally. Your closing keynote.
Oh, they didn't tell me that.
And we're going to hear the whole life story. I can't wait. And we're going to have a little Molly's poker game tonight event, a VIP exclusive event.
A legal one? Legal.
Yes, legal. I don't even think real money, actually, right? We're just having...
Just fake money.
Just fake money. We're just having fun. So I remember watching your movie. I don't remember how many years ago it was. You wrote a book first, right?
I did.
And did you self-initiate? You're like, I need to tell this story?
I mean, so here's what happened. I burned my life to the ground, like lost all my money, pled guilty to a felony, ended up millions and millions of dollars in debt, reputation destroyed. Tabloids are telling this really reductive tale, as they do. And I'm living with my mom, and I'm like, I need a comeback. Like, what do I do? It's going to be really hard for me to get a job, with this felony conviction. And so I'm thinking, I'm hiking in the mountains, and finally I'm like, oh my, light bulb. I need to take control of the narrative. I need to write my story.
Yeah.
And then I'll be saved.
I love it.
And so I went to all the publishers, tried to get a book deal. They all wanted this celebrity takedown piece. And I said, I think there's a better story here. And I just kept getting rejected. And finally I got a small book deal and really got a good press tour. And I was like, okay, here, we're going to make it. It's going to be okay. Book released, I think sold like 10 copies. I think they were all bought by my family.
That's awesome.
It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but honestly, I didn't even out-earn like my pretty small book advance. Yeah. But it was still, and in writing the story, like it was still my idea. I thought it was the only monetizable asset that I had. And so that would repair that level of reputational damage, that could even come close to helping me repay the millions and millions of dollars that the government was coming for, whether I wanted them to or not.
Yep.
And so I said, okay, I need someone with a really big microphone. And I'm like, I need to find someone in Hollywood. But I was up against a lot because there were so many people involved in the story, very powerful people from Hollywood to DC to the hedge fund world that were making calls to the studio to shut this down. So I was like, I need someone incredible and very brave. So I made this short list of the most successful, most prolific, what I thought were the bravest filmmakers in Hollywood. And on the top of that list was Aaron Sorkin. And everyone was like, there's no shot. But I just kept going. I mean, he wrote A Few Good Men, The Social Network, Moneyball. I mean, just hit after hit. And finally, I was just really persistent, and I got a meeting with him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So now let's tell Paul Harvey the rest of the story. So let's go backwards in time.
Okay.
And let's go live this journey together.
Okay.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has...
They do.
Right? And I'm getting chills right now because, like, I don't know. I just feel it connects me when we start talking about each other's stories.
For sure.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Loveland, Colorado.
And you were an avid skier.
I was an avid skier, yes. It was
And
my life.
so you're skiing like every day during the winter, and you're doing all the other devices they have during the summer,
Yes.
all that deal.
Yep.
How many days or how many hours a day were you training?
I mean, so there was my life before the U.S. ski team. We were 12 years old, around 12 years old. I was a weekend warrior. And then I got a really serious diagnosis of juvenile scoliosis. Really serious in the fact that like my back was super curved and they
Right.
needed to go in for emergency correction. And so they straightened my spine and fused 11 vertebrae together, 2 metal rods. And everyone was like, mogul skiing's over for you. And I just couldn't accept that. I had to try it. And I got back on the snow and worked really hard. And then when I was 19, I made the U.S. ski team. And so at that point, it was all in. I would go to...
That's already a massive comeback right there. Between 12 and 19.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty... I didn't see it that way, though, interestingly enough, because my brother was the prodigy.
Yep.
Jeremy was the prodigy. But I just kept grinding. And I, at 20, I was ranked third overall in North America. And at 21, I made it to the Olympic qualifiers. And, when I look back on that, there was such a profound lesson, even though I didn't make it all the way, even though I crashed at the Olympic qualifiers. But the profound lesson was, at 12 years old, I decided to take the reins of my own life and to, sort of not listen to the experts,
Right.
or my parents or the peanut gallery, because nobody can know what you're capable of, and nobody can know that fire that burns inside of you. And there are so many people that along the way that will tell you you can't or it's impossible.
Yep.
And I'm just so happy. It's like one of those sliding door moments where I decided to try it, because that set up the rest of my life to be a much bigger world with much bigger opportunities than if I had just said, okay, this is the doctor, he knows everything.
So you go through from 12 to 19, 20, 2 major setbacks, right? And so, did you had a ski accident,
Yeah,
right?
I crashed at the Olympic qualifiers. Pretty bad.
So, can we go back to those moments and just
Yeah.
peel another layer or two off?
Yeah.
So, like, when the scoliosis, did it happen rapidly, or was it happening slowly? And you're like, "What's going on? My body feels different."
No, I was running a 5K race with my dad, and I just all of a sudden had this searing back pain. And I remember I'd had one of those scoliosis checks.
Right, well done, school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier that year, even. And my dad looked at my back and he said, something's not right, because he saw this. And so when I went in, they started, they tested my lung function, and I was already starting to get a compressed lung because it was advancing so quickly. So it was like out of nowhere and just, really life altering.
So you had surgery.
I did.
And what did I just can't imagine you have this lifelong dream, right? And you're in a family of really great athletes.
Right.
And so this lifelong dream seems like it's slipping away. What did you turn to, like in those moments of darkness, what did you turn to that gave you the strength to put that next foot in front of the other?
Yeah.
When you got out of the hospital bed?
A couple things. Well, I had a pretty big setback after my surgery. I got really sick. My liver and gallbladder started to fail, actually. And I was in the hospital for another 6 weeks, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And in this very dark, terrifying moment, I was in the isolation ward, because one of the theories was that maybe I picked up some sort of infection that they weren't aware of. So it was literally like in, like E.T., like just tented, and no one was allowed in the room. And this doctor came in, and I just asked him, I was so sick, and I just asked him, am I going to die? And he said, I don't know. And I don't know how you process that as a 12-year-old, but basically I just got steely about it, and I was like, oh, I know. Like, I know I'm not going to die. And I know that I just don't want to live in these realities where, people don't see the bright side. And then for a year, I had to stay still and let those fusions heal. And I felt what it would feel like to be on the bench, really. And so as soon as I got the green light that those fusions had healed, there was a fire in me like none other. I just wasn't going to accept it.
Caged tiger.
Yeah. And this was before social media and the internet and cell phones and stuff. So I read books about people doing incredible things against very adverse or challenging circumstances. And then I would lay in bed at night and I would imagine stories where I was successful, just over and over. And I didn't have any idea that was visualization. I didn't, but that was just what I did to calm my mind down.
Yeah.
Now, when I got back on the mountain, it was not conceptual, it was real. And I had to reckon with a lot of internal problems, fear, this concern that people were watching me, waiting for me to fail, this inner critic that for the first time in my life I was introduced to. And my dad really helped me to understand how to navigate this. He said, because he picked me up from practice one day and I'm like, Dad, I don't know what's going on. There's this voice in my head and there's this fear and it's relentless and I don't know how to overcome it. And he said, Molly, your problem is not that you have this voice in your head. Your problem is that you're listening to it and you're not fighting back. He's like, you have to fight back against that voice. When it tells you something that is negative or fear-based, you can tell it to, F off.
Yeah. Giving yourself the authority and the power to fight
exactly.
back.
And what that really led me to was the beginning of a mindfulness meditation, observing the thoughts and not taking them at face value as truth, but being able to have that pause and decide, is this a thought I want to get involved with? Is this an emotion I want to go for a ride with?
Right.
And I just practiced that until I was able to have a lot more control and put myself in the driver's seat of what I wanted to focus on, what I didn't want to, and I've worked on that skill my whole life, and it has been a profound reason that I think I've been able to come out of some of these stickier situations.
The energy, in life, energy is such a powerful thing. Visualization just really does seem to lead to manifestation.
I think it all starts and ends with the mind. I think that's what will get you there, or that's what will keep you back.
Yeah. So then you have your accident and you realize that skiing is not going to be in the future. What, I'm not sure what you did next after skiing, but what was that transition like?
It was the hardest time of my life. When you are when you're a serious athlete, you sacrifice everything for that. You sacrifice a social life. I remember being in college, I didn't even drink on my 21st birthday. It was who I was. It was my identity. And so when that was taken away, I didn't know who I was, and I was questioning everything. I was finishing up at undergrad, and I was going to go to law school, but I really felt like I needed to just take a breather and analyze life, because I felt like I had put everything into this. Left nothing on the field. And at the end of the day, I skied over a little tiny piece of pine tree in the course, which pre-released my binding, and that was that.
Wow.
So it was just like this, this moment of reckoning of, okay, where do I go next? And do I want to take another risk? This is heartbreaking.
Well, that's interesting. Right.
And then, so I decided to go to LA just for a year. And the only reason LA is because I had just enough gas in my car to get there. And I wanted to be warm because, as you said, even during the summer, we would go train in the Southern Hemisphere or on a glacier.
Yep.
And I was like, I have been freezing my whole life. I
always wondered about skiers and boarders. Like,
oh my God.
Are you cold? Because I get cold when I go skiing.
It's like, you're just constantly uncomfortable, it's kind of a good training in that, I guess. But anyway, so I wanted to be warm. So I went to LA and I got a bunch of jobs. And one day my boss at this real estate development company that I was working at came in and said, I'm going to do a weekly poker game. I need you to serve drinks. And, he was all over the place. And I thought, okay, whatever, And I didn't know anything about poker. So I love to research. And so my methods have gotten a little more sophisticated as of late, but I remember Googling what kind of music do poker players like to listen to and what do they eat? Like, how can I create, right? Yeah. And I've just bam, 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 the most cliche songs you've ever heard, like The Gambler, Night Moves, And I made this little
know when to hold them, when to fold them.
Yes, exactly. And, just got a cheese plate and showed up. And then these people started walking in, and it was politicians and prolific people from the business community, superstars from the tech community, A-list actors, heads of studios, heads of investment banks. And I was just like, okay, super embarrassed on my playlist. Like, can someone just cut that right now?
That's awesome.
But, as the night wore on and I got over my jitters and, my embarrassment, I started to just get to be a fly on the wall. And these people who were constantly in the news, constantly innovating, constantly moving the needle on the world stage were just having these conversations candidly. And for someone who loves to read and loves information and loves to research and loves to know about the world, this was like catnip. I mean, I was fascinated. And every time I would fill their drink, they would hand me a chip. And I was like, I would just put it in my pocket, or my purse or whatever. And at the end of the night, the dealer counted out my chips and handed me $4,000 in cash. And I was like, what is this chip economy? I need to know. I need to live.
Early crypto.
Yeah, exactly. What are these tokens? I think there's something here.
That's awesome.
And then, the challenge was over the next couple months, how do I make myself irreplaceable? And then eventually, how do I start my own game? Because I saw that there is this insane opportunity to build a network, to have control of these 9 seats, to curate this world, to learn about the world from people who are actually involved in altering culture. And it felt like the best business school.
Right.
That was also paying you a lot of money.
Yeah. Every night's an MBA.
Yeah, exactly. And so at 24, turning 25, I started my own game. And all these people came over to play in my game. And, people ask me why. And the truth is because I was really nice to them. And I didn't treat them like transactions. Yep. And I was curious about their life. And I actually cared about their experience. And I cared about them. And, there's this, I'm actually writing a book about it. It's called Effective Presence with an A, Effective Presence. And it's the science of how you make people feel. And whether we realize it or not, we are all affecting each other.
Yes.
On a neurological nervous system level. It starts with your mom. Like in the womb, we start to get affected by things that she's feeling. And then, a baby starts to mimic and their mood, and thus their whole attachment style can be affected by how people talk to them, how people look at them. And so, that we have all these conversations about EQ, and it focuses a lot on, okay, you need to read this person's face and try to figure out how they're feeling so you can chart your course. When really, I think it's a much more human and connective experience to start to understand how you can make someone feel comfortable, protected, like they're at a place where they can trust you, that you care about their existence. And so that is really what I focused on. And the ROI was all the way. I mean, they came in for 6 years that I ran those games in LA. That was their home game. And there were so many people in Hollywood that were rich and famous and comedians. I mean, everyone had a poker game, and that they just kept playing in mine. And it's really testament to, I think, that quote from Maya Angelou, which is, people are going to forget what you said and what you did, but they're never going to forget the way you made them feel.
Right.
And there is really a lot of scientific validation behind that.
So that game, there were 9 players in that game. Were there multiple tables or one table?
Just a table.
Just one table.
Uh-huh.
And so was it first 9 to sign up? So back at the first game, not Molly's game yet.
Yeah.
But the first game, is it just first come, first serve? They sign up?
No, it's a curation.
Okay.
Yeah. And then as the years went on...
Now, was there science behind that? Like, who bet the most? Who was the...
Yeah. So when I took over the game, this was the criteria. No pros, because pros would have taken all the money.
Right.
People with similar playing styles, so action players. People with similar skill levels, so that at the end of the year, you get these big, huge adrenaline pumping results, but at the end of the year, ideally, nobody gets killed. And then interesting people like that would contribute to the sort of underground marketing and mythology of the game. And I noticed that the holy grail was an athlete. When an athlete walked into the room, even the billionaires, even the celebrities seemed to kind of be fanboying.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Was it all men and women?
So if I would have let pros in, I'm sure I would have had some women players. But, by the end, it was a $250,000 buy-in, and people were losing. I mean, I saw someone lose $100 million in a night. So
$100 million?
Yes.
Woo!
And so I always say that women are a little smarter than to risk $250 on a recreational poker game.
Yourself a $50 million for sure.
Right.
That's awesome. So how did you establish the science of picking the level of play? Like, was it just by observation, so much observation? How long was it before you started your first game?
It was about 8 months.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you have a knack for this, obviously.
Well, what I realized when I started going to those games is that I didn't necessarily... School was hard for me. I did very well because I figured out how to be scrappy. But I didn't have this linear way of thinking, and I didn't have this sort of organized or collected way of thinking. So multiple choice tests were really hard because I'd be like, technically B and C are right in the,
I'm with you. Me too. I'm like, you get in your head and you go back and I go check that again.
Yeah. Sometimes So what I realized is that in that room, I was in like a mental flow state. Like, I was really good at reading a room and preempting problems and solving problems and coming up with creative solutions and writing down, taking like extensive notes on the environment and where I could improve it, and understanding, what I could do to increase pleasure and decrease frustration, because that's kind of the name of the game with people, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I like created like some software for my spreadsheets, and I mean, it was finally like, okay, this is what I'm good at. Like, skiing, I got there. Did it come super naturally to me after the, back surgery? No, it was an uphill climb. I had to learn how to play hurt. It was grit. School was the same thing. Like, I had to like unlearn the way that my mind wanted to work, and I had to like kind of figure out how to fit my thinking into a paradigm that was very difficult for me. But in this room where I could, where it was like, just thinking on your feet and coming up with creative solutions, then I felt in flow. You know?
So we're coming to the end of our time already. This is going so fast. So I'm going to ask you a question to kind of round out. So I'm going to ask you a couple rapid fires real quick. But
okay.
So you ran the game then for 6 years, you said?
It was about 5.5, 6 years in LA and then 2.5 years in New York.
So how would you summarize the closure?
Oh, God. Okay,
the
ready?
moment of closure. How did that kind of all go down?
It was a slow car accident. Slow, dramatic car accident. First the feds seized all my assets. I looked at my bank account, it read negative $9,999,099. Then I went home, lived with my mom. The feds said that I wasn't a target of the investigation, but unless I wanted to sue them, they were keeping my money. Then I tried to put my life back together and finally got a job 2 years later. I'd been living like a Girl Scout with my mom and my grandma. And 5 days after I moved into this little studio apartment, I got arrested by 17 FBI agents with machine guns and high beam flashlights. I had to go to New York.
Yeah, 3 a.m. kind of a deal?
Yeah. I had to go to New York, find an attorney. I didn't have any money. Found this guy, Jim Walden. He was amazing. He was honorable. I kept experiencing what it was like to be around him, and it just brought me back to who I wanted to be and who I was raised to be. And I made this promise to myself that I'd never abandon myself and my integrity and my values again. Then the prosecutors wanted a meeting with me. They wanted me to become a confidential informant. They're going to give all my money back and give me a deferred prosecution. But at the end of the day, the place I got to was, this was my fault. I made these choices. I got to stand for it. I got sentenced. I didn't have to go to jail, but I had to go to dinner with my family, and Jeremy had just been inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, and Jordan had just graduated Harvard for the 90th time, and Jeremy was a Abercrombie model, and Jordan was a great dad, and I was I'm the family felon. What do I do? And then circle back to, I wrote a book. And somehow convinced Aaron Sorkin to adopt a book that...
You're an amazing person.
Oh,
obviously
thanks,
brilliant. Just an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that today.
You're welcome.
A couple of times I had to keep myself from getting emotional just thinking about that journey. A couple quick questions.
Okay.
If there's one thing that you think people should stop doing in your industry or anything in life, there's one thing that you think people should stop doing, what would it be?
Being a slave to the thinking mind.
Wow, that's a whole nother podcast. Being a slave to the thinking mind?
Yep.
Okay, that's deep. We got to talk somewhere later about that.
Okay.
That's powerful.
I just, there's this line in a book, maybe you've read it, The Untethered Soul. You're not the voice in your head, you're the one that hears it. Pretty profound. But basically what it means is there is this running script in your head that's composed of things people have said to you, things you've observed, survival instincts, whatever, and it's not always telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And when it says, and same with emotions. So to start to get control of your own psychology.
Yep.
And start to re-narrate or learn how to, ignore, dismiss some of that discursive thinking, and put yourself in the driver's seat, I think is the first and most foundational step to being the captain of your fate.
If there's one thing, trait, whatever it might be, a trait that you think is the most important thing to disrupt yourself, or almost say reorient maybe even in this situation yourself, what would that trait or that thing be when you feel that you just can't get there? What's that one thing that comes to mind?
Well, I think first of all, the willingness to look at who you are and what you're doing when no one else is around in an honest way and in a gentle way. Because we have these people that we purport to be in the world, and we kind of go with that story. But when you're alone, who are you if people aren't watching? Yeah. And are there things you can do to improve? Don't be punitive with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. But what can you do internally you and like yourself to start to get better, to start to get stronger. And the second thing is to establish a why. You won't always get out of bed based on motivation or based on, energy or whatever. But if you can keep coming back to that why, if you can find that fire, and get out of the thinking mind. Mine says, I don't want to get up, and you just get your feet in action.
Yeah, I love that. Molly, thank you so much.
Thanks, Toph.
Thank you for coming to Rally. Thank you for joining
thanks
Innovate
for having
Evaporate.
me. It's an honor.
It's absolutely been amazing. Until next time, we'll see y'all soon on Innovate or Evaporate.